So now we missed this last clip, so I'll repeat it again for a second if you guys don't mind. So now having information and having complete information are two different worlds. So number one, if we're researching, like in my business, for example, if we're researching an investment opportunity, we're researching a company we're going to consult, if we're doing anything to help somebody or to either to make money or to take advantage of an opportunity, our job is to gather as much information as possible. So now, if there are 10 facts available in the world of that company, and we only have 3, and we make a decision based on those 3, we are more likely to make a mistake than if we had all 10. That's obvious. Even if we make the right decision, even if we succeed actually, it still doesn't mean that we made the right decision. Because again, we only used a part of the information. This same exact principle applies to Hashem, His Torah, Judaism, and everybody's life. Now, if you have only a part of the information, if a rabbi is telling you that, hey, listen, what you're doing is okay, you're Jewish because your mom is Jewish, and maybe one day you'll get to keep Shabbat, maybe one day you'll do these things, but for now you're okay, that is the worst possible advice that they could be giving you. And it's not necessarily me just saying it, it's the Torah itself saying it, it's rabbis that I respect saying it, and I think that something that's really important to know is that even though some of these rabbis like Rabbi Mizrahi or Amnon Yitzchak or some of these others that are telling you what the Torah says and they're being perceived as aggressive, if you look at the statistics of how many people they're helping and how do tshuva versus how many the others are doing, it's two different worlds. And I can tell you couple of examples from my own personal life that I know firsthand. So one time there was this website that I follow, a Jewish website, and people write different rabbis that work for this website, questions. So now a Jewish guy says, listen, Rabbi, I don't keep anything, I don't keep Shabbat, I don't keep kosher, I don't keep the holidays, I don't keep any mitzvot whatsoever, am I going to hell? Now the first thing that if I was a rabbi, I would say, I would know that person is obviously having a conscience problem. They're feeling bad about themselves, or else they wouldn't spend their time reaching out to a rabbi. If they had no connection whatsoever to Hashem, then they would not even spend any minute. So this is a perfect opportunity for the rabbi to not only help that person, but also to help whoever's going to read this article, which could be millions of people. It's the internet. It has unlimited power as far as reachability. And if you look at what the response of the rabbi was, it got me so angry. I responded to it. They didn't post my comments, most of my comments, on the website. But instead, I got the rabbi to respond to me. But the point of what happened is, the guy is saying that he's not following anything, he's not doing anything, and he's asking if he's going to hell. So he's obviously having an issue. And the rabbi, instead of telling the guy and telling the world what he needs to do, instead he gives him the worst possible advice anyone could possibly give. And he tells him, well, listen, no, you're not going to hell. Hell is really more of like a laundromat. It just cleans you up. He pretty much painted a picture of this wonderful place, and that was actually part of my response, where he painted such a wonderful picture of what hell is, that I want to go there. That's how nice it seems. And worse than that, instead of telling him, hey, by the way, okay, fine, you're not going to hell. Maybe you don't want to scare the guy. Maybe you don't want to tell him, listen, all these bad things are going to happen. People are not ready for that all the time. Maybe you could scare him so much you could become completely far away from it. So fine, I can understand not giving people, the average person, the real details of what happens. Fine. I asked my cousin several times about it early in my tshuva process to teach me what happens in those places. Do they exist? Do they not exist? What is this? He refused to do it. Even to this day, there's very limited conversations about it. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't think it's necessary. So there's other ways to do it. Fine. So not giving somebody the details of that part of Hashem's creation is not good for everybody, and I can understand why a rabbi would not want to do it, especially not in a public forum. But what I don't understand, and what I completely disagree with, is that the answer was, instead of telling somebody, listen, yes, you're not doing anything, why don't you take something on yourself like one of the 3 core covenants that we have with Hashem? Why don't you do tefillin every day? Why don't you keep Shabbat? Why don't you protect your brit? Why don't you, do something else like kosher? Something meaningful. Instead of telling them that, it's like, oh no, don't worry. If you just light Shabbat candles, you'll be fine. That was the response. If you light Shabbat candles, you'll be fine. Don't worry. Hell is you have nothing to worry about that. Everyone goes to heaven because we're Jewish. And pretty much I felt like this wasn't a Jewish website. This was a different religion. And unfortunately, they are not only, they're not only representing Orthodox Judaism to the world and Hashem, but they're also some of the people behind this. The original founders of this organization and others like it are really big tzaddikim. They're righteous people. They have good teachings. It's just that the students are terrible. And telling somebody that they need to do is keep Shabbat candles and that's okay is, you might as well just tell them, listen, why don't you just go convert to a different religion? It'll be easier. It's almost that bad. Because light candles and that you'll be fine. Where in the Torah does it say light candles and you'll be fine? What verse? Tell me. I haven't seen that one. Any rabbis that I checked with didn't say that either. I don't know where the verse is. If you light candles on Shabbat, you'll be fine. You could still violate it. You could put pig on the kiddush table if you want. Where does it say all this stuff? And that's the difference between information of having somebody have some information and having complete information. And I responded because I don't know. My nature is that if something is wrong, I don't care what the consequences are. I have to point it out. It's not necessarily.
And he responded to you.
And the rabbi responded to me.
Were you responding in a forum or the?
No, that's the thing. That was the thing that made me upset because he wouldn't respond to me in the comments. He wouldn't even post my comments. He posted maybe 1 or 2 because my comments called it how it is. The first couple of comments were posted, and then after that they didn't post the rest of my comments, and he would just respond to me directly, and pretty much his biggest thing was like, no, this person was, I can't really tell them the full picture because they're just, if I tell them, listen, they have to do all of these things, they're not going to do all of it, and so on and so forth. That was just hogwash. Okay, that was all baloney because the reality of it is if he wanted to directly help that person and he didn't want to overwhelm them with information and new things they need to do and scare them away, if that was the real intention here, then he could have done the same thing that he did with me, which is directly email me. He didn't have to publicly post the question and post the response because realistically, anyone that types in these few keywords of what happens if I don't do anything will have this article pop up, and to them, that's the answer. The average person is not going to know that there's a body of work that proves everything that he says completely wrong. They're just going to say, listen, if I don't keep kosher, if I don't keep Shabbat, if I don't keep Yom Kippur, if I don't keep any of the holidays, if I don't do anything, if I'm even, the worst possible, if I start killing people every Tuesday, I don't do anything right, all I got to do is light 2 candles right before Shabbat and I'll be fine. That's the answer. So that's the problem. And people will use that as an excuse. Because they say, wait a minute, God, I know that you're upset at me, and I know you didn't do anything because, okay, so I died, a little, and I spent the last 90 years on earth, and now you're upset at me because I didn't do any of your stuff. But listen, 30, 40 years ago, I read this article that asked the same question I asked. If I don't keep anything, what happens? And he told me just do candles before Shabbat. So I didn't look at anything else. I just thought that was the answer. So every Shabbat, I religiously lit those 2 candles right next to the 3 pigs and shrimps that I was eating. So that's the reality. So having information, it's our responsibility to go search out that information. Because you know what? We can't really depend on anybody. We can't depend on some of the people that are supposed to be the best representatives of what the Torah says. And for us here, and anyone that's watching this, again, the point of providing the information is so you have the full picture. So you have all 10 facts and not just 3 of them. What you do with it is up to you. And that's what connects me to some of these rabbis I mentioned. And that's what's always been my personal personality in general, where I need to have all of the information. Even if some of the information is completely against me, and it's completely just goes against everything that I want to happen, and it's not the nicest thing and not the most convenient thing, I need to have it, because at least at that point, I can make a decision based on all of the facts. If I don't do it, I don't do it. If you guys don't do it, you don't do it. Somebody else doesn't do it, doesn't do it. I'm not anybody. I'm not judging anyone. I'm not telling anyone. But I think at the very least, you need to know. And that's the difference. So when you have, like I was telling you guys before, when you have 520 religious experiences over 10 years at the minimum, people come into your office 520 times, if not 1,500 times, over a 10-year span, trying the nice way of making people get closer to Hashem, and nothing works over a 10-year time frame. So if you say, listen, we didn't have enough time, that's not right. We had 10 years. We had more than 10 years. So we had enough time. Oh, we didn't have enough number of times that we came. No, you had over 500 times, or maybe probably 1,500 times. So that's not right. There's nothing that could say, this is a long-term, indirect experiment. The nice, easy fashion way does not work for the vast majority of people. And I'm sure that some of that works for some people. I mean, obviously, if it didn't work at all, then I think they would cease to exist. I would hope they would cease to exist. But I think that the success ratio is so low that it's obvious that it doesn't work. That I think that those people would have done it, the success that they do have, those people would have done it anyway. They just looked for an excuse to do it. It's like somebody wants to quit a job, but they don't really, they feel bad about doing it. And then, they get into an argument with the secretary and they use that as an excuse to quit. In reality, they really wanted to quit anyway. They were just looking for an excuse. And the people that wanted to become religious, they were already connected to Hashem. They already liked it. They wanted to change their life a little bit. And some rabbi said something nice. They told him a nice story about Shabbat. It's like, okay, I'm going to start keeping everything. Okay, fine. So that person, may have been somewhat motivated by that rabbi, but in reality, he already had some basic understanding and a need to do it himself. But when you look at the statistics of having, 15 million Jews in the world, and only 2 million religious ones, of which out of the 2 million, it's not really complete 2 million, obviously the system is not working. So to be a little bit more aggressive may not seem like it's the ideal way, but statistically it's the only way.
But I think the system is in place not for people like you or me.
What do you mean?
Meaning that we have a more closer feel. We were born with, even though we
a certain foundation.
We have foundation. Some people are really lost. They don't even know what Judaism is.
Fine. That's not the majority. It's there's some people that are very lost. But again, I think there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of rabbis out there. There's a lot of good people with a lot of knowledge out there. And I think that in anything in life, if you're playing scared, you've already lost. If you're already scared to lose the crowd, you might as well not show up, because the crowd you're not connecting to it. You cannot win anything in life if you're scared. And as a matter of fact, in Judaism, you're not really supposed to be scared. If you have to have emunah. So if you think that just because you say the truth to people about Shabbat violations being something worse than murder, and not being that you're not even considered Jewish if you don't do it, if you're scared that people are going to leave and not show up, then maybe you should consider a different job. Because if the nice way is only going to get one person every year to do tshuva, I'm sorry, but when you have 15 million people not keeping it, that's just not enough. It's just not. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't keep things because they just don't feel like it or they don't believe it or any of that stuff. I understand that. But again, I think that when someone knows the information, when they have a basic foundation, when they do have a basic foundation, they do have a basic belief in Hashem, they do have a basic understanding of of Judaism, but they still violate some of this stuff, some of the basic laws of Judaism, and they still do it, most of the time it's because they don't know. They don't know how bad it is to do it. I know I didn't know. I know some other people that have done tshuva that didn't know some of this stuff. And I know some people that even to this day don't know, and they're actually religious. They just don't know it. They go through the motion. They do it because their tshuva journey was different than mine and so on. But the point is that I think knowing the information is the most important thing you can do. And again, we have to depend on ourselves to get the information. It's not necessarily, we can't put all of this blame on anyone in specific. It's our responsibility in reality to go find this information. But I think that anyone that is going to do the job justice has to give the truth 100% of the time and the whole truth, not 90%, not their opinion, not somebody else's opinion, just what it is. This is what it says. This is what you need to do. You could do it or not. I'm not your God. I'm not your father. I'm not your mother. I'm not anybody. You do what you want, but this is at least you have the information here, and people are going to act accordingly. And I think that it's something that makes sense to me, because the other way not only didn't make sense, but I saw it in action. It just doesn't work. So again, with what we're doing here, the stuff we've learned already, the stuff we're going to learn, I know some of the stuff I repeat over and over again. I repeat it not because I have a bad memory. I repeat it because I think it's very important to remind everyone how important it is. Because if we don't know, or we forgot, then we're more likely to make a mistake. Since we talk about memory, so I saw something really special. I learned something from my cousin actually this past week. It was really cool. The Hebrew language is the holy language. It's the language that Hashem created the world, where He said, and what He said was created. It specifically says this in the Torah. So it wasn't like there was no hands, there was no construction companies. Just, He said something, and He said light, and light was created. He said the land or the sky or anything that was created, and He said it through words, and He said that He used the Hebrew language. And as a matter of fact, the Hebrew language was the only language until the almost 2,000 years after creation. I think it was 1996 after creation. So the first 1996 years, we're at year 5775 now. So in the year 1656 was when they had the great flood of Noah. Noah and his family survived, plus a couple of other people. Sichon, which was a giant, and also Og, Melech HaBashan, Og, the king of Bashan, were two people that survived, other than Noah's family. And but this happened in the year 1656, and then 340 years later, we had the Tower of Babel, which is when the Am Yisrael made the people of the world made a horrendous mistake by using their logic instead of what Hashem said. And the strangest part about it is that the people of the flood, meaning Noah's sons, were still around. So it's not like, Og was still around, so the people that survived the flood, which was pretty much creation all over again, you had Adam, created in the beginning. He died after 930 years. Then you had 700 years later or so, he had his son, Seth, who knew Noah. Methuselah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so point is that at the year 1656, the world ended, pretty much, and the only few people were left. So it started all over again with the animals that he had in the ark, and everything started all over again. So now, 340 years later, there's only one language still, which is Hebrew. There's only, the people that are there. It's not like there is a, different. There wasn't even kings yet. Like the whole concept of king wasn't even around yet until Nimrod was the first official king that around that time. But the point is that anyone that wanted to know what happened, like proof, had the people that were there. It's not like they had to read books or they had to go on Google to see if this really happened. The people that were there were, you could ask them. And still yet, people make a mistake. And what do? And they said, okay, so you know what? The flood happened in 1656. Hashem obviously is the creator of the world and the destroyer of the world when he wants, if we don't follow what he says. But instead, if we believe in Hashem, we have to follow these 7 laws that he gave Noah. I don't want to do that. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do what Hashem says. They want to live their life free. So what do? They make their own laws. And their laws are not such good laws. Well, because their laws give them a free life. The laws of Hashem doesn't give. So they still have this connection. They still have this conscience that makes them feel bad. So they say, you know what? We have to get this whole concept of a creator out of the picture. So what do? They say, you know what? Hashem didn't really destroy the world. What ended up happening is that he really created the world originally, and then he left. And then he came back after 1656 years, and he decided to destroy the world. And then he's going to come back in another 1656 years. He's going to come back every 1600 years. So it's really more of like nature, not really a creator. And they just made it like a sign instead of like what it really was. And that's what people do today. They say, listen, I got sick because I didn't wear a jacket outside. Or I got, I lost all my money because, I just made some mistakes that I could have done. They contribute all of the bad things in their life to a human decision. In reality, even though our decisions do affect certain outcomes, those outcomes are mainly because of what Hashem wants to happen. It's only because of what Hashem will not allow something to happen if he doesn't want it to happen, in so many words. So people made the mistake and said, you know what, since he's going to come here every 1600 years, then let's build the Tower of Babel. Let's build this tower to reach the sky, to reach the heavens, and fight him. That's how crazy people are. This is just 340 years after the flood, after Hashem destroyed the world. You can talk to the guy that was there, the few people that were there, in 5 minutes. They're right next to you. So it's not like they didn't believe that it didn't happen. They knew it was there. And still they don't want to believe. They don't want to commit to doing what Hashem wants. And they build this tower and they want to reach the sky. And they said that actually in the Midrash of Me'am Loez, the tower, they built it. And the tower was so big that after the first third was buried underground, when Hashem finally punished them and destroyed it, buried underground, and the second third was burnt. The third that was left was so big that from the top of it, the tallest tree in the world, the tallest tree out there, looked like a grasshopper next to it. That's how big it was. So, and that's actually one of the proofs that when someone, whether someone is going to do something good or bad, Hashem will help them. And that's actually one of the verses in Tehillim. Whether a person wants to choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing, Hashem will help him in his way. So even these people that were doing something wrong, Hashem helped them in their way, and He helped them actually build this tower in a very, very short period of time. But one of the punishments, which was the point of the story, one of the punishments, and He didn't destroy them, even though their sin was much worse than the sin of the people of the flood. They went directly against Hashem. They wanted to fight Him. I mean, it's just nonsense, but I don't even know how people get to such a thought, but I guess it's... the point is that Hashem decided that since they were all together, instead of going against each other, they had an advantage versus the people of the flood, because the people of the flood were going against each other. They were stealing from each other, murdering each other. And as soon as they did that, Hashem said, there's just too much evil everywhere in the world, they got to destroy everyone. Whereas here, there was achdut, meaning they were all together. They were working together, even though they were working against Hashem, they were still working together, so Hashem let them survive. Some of them survive. But what did He do? He changed the languages, and that's when He created the 70 different languages, and that's what He created, in essence, where 70 different nations were created, because people couldn't communicate anymore, and they started, instead of helping each other move the stones, move the things, they started fighting, and they couldn't understand each other, and long story short, they were destroyed. So now going back to that's when the other languages outside of Hebrew were created. So Hebrew was the way the world was created, and the way it's called Sfat HaKodesh, the holy language. So in Hebrew, the root of every word has a meaning, every word has a value, and every word has a significance to it. It's not like other languages where you could just create words out of thin air, and every other year the Oxford Dictionary comes up with more words that people created. In Hebrew, it's not like that, especially the core language, which is the holy language, not the modern Hebrew. So one thing that was very special is that if you want to remember something, how many times do you need to, like if you're learning Torah, you're learning Gemara, you're learning anything that's precious, you want to remember it, and they say how many times do you need to review it or read it? And the answer is 101 times. Okay, and the language the language has a little secret on it. My cousin showed me. The word for forgot in Hebrew is shachach. Okay, shin, kaf, chet. And the word for remember is zachar. Zayin, chaf, resh. So each letter has a numerical value. It's called gematria. Each letter has a numerical value. Like Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet, has 1, Bet has 2, Gimel has 3, and so on and so forth. Some of the letters have higher values, like 200, 400, but each one has a value to it. So the numerical value of forgot, shachach, is 328. The numerical value of zachar is 227. So shachach minus zachar, 328 minus 227 is 101. It's
101 times.
101 times. So that's something really special.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but that's also, there was 2 sages that one became a big rabbi, but the other one became world renowned. And they studied the same things. They dedicated their life to Torah. But one day they're walking next to each other, and the one that's local, successful but local, asking the one that's world known, "How is it that you got so much bigger than me? I mean, I studied just like you." He goes, "I don't know. I don't think you studied just like me." He goes, "How many times did you finish the Shas?" Shas is the Gemara. Which if an average person that studies one daf, which is really 2 pages, every day, mathematically they'll finish it in a little bit over 7 years. They finish the Shas, the whole Gemara, in once every 7 years. And that's if you do a daf every day. So there's actually a huge event every 7 years of people that follow this program at Madison Square Garden thousands and tens of thousands of people that go there that finish, or thousands of people that show up there that finish the Shas. They go there and they do the last page together. It's a big event. So a big tzaddik came up with this system of helping people that were intimidated by the Gemara. So he came up with this brilliant concept of saying, listen, if you finish one page every day, one daf really, it's not one page, it's 2 pages. One daf, because the Gemara pages are front and back. Not like regular pages where this would be 1, this would be 2. In a Gemara, this is 1. So now, if you do one of these dapim each day, you finish it in a little bit over 7 years. It's 2,666 pages. So, obviously the people that study Torah every day, like my cousin and others, finish it much faster than once every 7 years. But the point is that if somebody is really, really putting their life into it, to finish the Shas is a huge, gigantic accomplishment. To finish it more than once in your life is a huge accomplishment. To finish it more than that, I mean, obviously, there is a huge, huge thing. But the point is, these conversation between these two rabbis, saying, "So how many times did you finish the Shas?" He says, "I finished it 100 times."
Yeah.
He goes, that's the difference. He goes, "Why? How many times did you finish it?" He goes, 101. But the Gemara says, the difference between someone who finished it 101 times and versus 100, even though it seems minute, he says they're not even similar.
Wow.
They're not even similar to each other. Someone that read it 100 times, you would think he knows everything. I mean, how much more can you possibly know?
It's just
But they're saying to show that one extra time, they're not even similar to each other. That's how much the difference is. So it's really the whole concept of 101 and remembering it is really special. Another thing is with numbers, the Torah has 613 mitzvot, but then we have 7 mitzvot that came from Rabbanan. So in reality, we have 620. We can't really do all 620 because some of them don't apply to every one of us. Some of them are specifically for women. Some of them are specifically for men. Some of, like a woman is not obligated to do tefillin. We are, as men. Some of them are for Kohanim. We're not Kohanim, or he's a Kohen. So no one can do all of them. But the point is the 613 from the Torah and 7 from Rabbanan. So the 620, some people are saying, oh wait, so if you're adding the 7, you're changing the number, maybe you're changing Torah. Torah specifically says not to change, not to modify. But obviously Hashem knows what the future holds. He knows what's allowed, what's not allowed. He knows what He's going to allow to happen, what He's not going to allow to happen. And one of the verses in the in Torah is it's actually in your Siddur when you read the Musaf on Shabbat. You know the part of Tfilat Shmoneh Esrei that you say when the rabbi goes back to doing Tfilat Shmoneh Esrei, he's repeating it, and you say Nagdishach Menaritzach Kenom Siach. Okay, so in Musaf, it's a little different. The first verse, it's not Nagdishach. It says Keter Yitenu Lach, right? So Keter Yitenu Lach, and it's in essence what it's saying is that a crown will be given to you by the angels and us. So the angels and us, the angels and Am Yisrael are going to give Hashem a crown. And the value, so the crown is the present we're giving Hashem. The value of Keter is 620. The value of the word Keter, the crown, is 620. That was another cool thing. And there's a lot of things. I mean, listen, it's a lot of really special things in the Torah. It's just really a matter of following it. I mean, it seems like you guys are a little bit tired. I can go on for another 10 hours, so it's up to you guys. One last thing I think was really, really, really cool that you should look into is give me the one of these here. Yeah. And you can look at this yourself. Hanukkah is coming up shortly. This is very cool for Hanukkah. It also shows us what our potential is. Because if somebody achieved it before, even though except with the exception of Moses, no one will ever be like him. But if somebody achieved it before, we can achieve it. So if somebody learned a lot of Torah, we can learn a lot of Torah. Rabbi Akiva, one of the top Jews in history, of mankind, one of the top human beings in the history of mankind, just started learning the alphabet of Judaism. Didn't know anything about Judaism at the age of 40 years old. Just started. And he ended up becoming the biggest rabbi of all time. He had a congregation of students, of 24,000 students. And he started at 40, just learning the alphabet.
Rabbi Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva. He went to kindergarten with his son, learning the alphabet. So if he could start at 40 years old, just learning the alphabet. If we know the alphabet, we're already ahead of him, of what he was. So the point is that the point of what I'm going to tell you today is, number one, to tie this to Hanukkah, and number two, to show you what our potential really is. So anyone can tell me how many candles do we light, total amount of candles, we're going to light in Hanukkah that's coming up? Alright, I'll save you time. 44 candles. Okay, if you light...
44.
No, I don't want to put you on the spot. You guys are tired. I don't want you to think too much. But okay, so 44 candles. 24/7. Okay, so 44 candles. If you have the seven candles. So you have 1 on the first day, 2 on the second day, 3, 4, 5, 6. You add all of those, you get 36. And then there's the shamash, which you use once each day. So that's 8 more. So it's 36 plus 8. So that's 44, right? Okay, so you have 44 candles. So this is a story about a rabbi asking his students, little kids, maybe 7, 8 years old. This is almost 200 years ago. So the 7, 8-year-old in those times were a little bit different than us. When we were 7 or even now. He's asking his students, okay, so, we're finishing school, but if you guys first one that answers this question, and I'll let you guys go home. So he says, who can tell me how many candles we're going to light on Hanukkah? So this little boy raises his hand, he goes, and he says, instead of saying a number, he says, Apach nishbal v'anachnu nimlatnu. What is Apach nishbal? This is actually a verse. This is Psalms 124, verse 7. And he says, Apach is like either a garbage pail or a trap, really. A trap was broken, and we escaped. So why did he use this verse? This is apach, the value of apach, which is 3 letters, hey, pei, chet, is 88. Nishbal, so you divide it into 2. 88 divided by 2 is 44. Ve'anachnu nimlatnu is me, we got away. So he says, so he asked them, how many candles are lit on Hanukkah? He says, 88 divided by 2 is 44, and we're out of here.
No.
And he said this on the spot. So that little boy ended up that's from Tehillim. So that little boy ended up becoming Rabbi Yonatan Eibeshitz, which was Gedol Hador at the time, huge rabbi. This is almost 200 years ago, and that's the potential where if somebody asks you for a number, not only are you giving them the answer, but you're giving them from a verse inside the Tanakh. That means you need to know the entire Torah by heart. To know every letter, the value of every letter, every verse by heart, all of this stuff. I mean, we read this particular verse in our prayers, but the point is, that's the potential. So, he started also with nothing, just like us. 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, half hour a day, every day, and little by little gets more. Be'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will open our minds, just like He opened their minds, and we'll get very far, and we'll do what He wants.
הש"ס זה רק גמרא או שזה גם מדובר על משנה, כל הזה?
משנה, גמרא, it's Talmud, it's together.
זאת אומרת, אתה גם עובר על כל הספרים של התנ"ך, על כל ה...
Yeah, the Shas, so what you do, the Talmud which is Mishnah and Gemara,
המשנה זה תרגום לתורה בעצם, לתנ"ך, לא?
it's the laws. It's all the laws. All the details of the laws. So, for example, all of 613 mitzvot are in the Torah. But the details of what to do are not in the Torah.
So
Right. So that's Torah Ba'al Peh. That's the Gemara. That's the Mishnah. Mishnah first came out. Then a few hundred years later came the explanations of the Mishnah.
So if you learn all the Shas, you actually cover.
You're covering, yeah, because when you're going over the Shas, they give you they're getting the source, which is from the Torah Bechtav, which is the written Torah. Where's the source of this law? It's from here, and they're teaching you what each verse means. So you're actually covering everything. You're covering the entire Torah. But that's why you have to constantly do it over and over again. Listen, it all starts with one page, and then a second page. No, but forget about finishing the Shas right now. Start with 15 minutes a day, learning anything related to Torah. Then you learn a half hour a day. Then you learn an hour a day. Then you could take, get one. I'll give you guys some Gemara books if you want. It makes it really easy to learn it. You learn one page a day. You learn then, one page a week. The bottom line is you have to start somewhere. Don't look at the world of possibilities because that may intimidate you. Just look at today, I'm going to learn 20 minutes. Tomorrow, I'm going to learn an hour.
Let's start with
Next week, I'm going to learn. Start with the kids' book, yeah, but the 39 Melachot. But learning is our direct dial to Hashem, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day. Learning is our direct dial. You want to talk to Hashem? You want to be on good terms with Him? Learn Torah. So you first learn why, then you do what He says, or you do what He says really, then learn. But that's why in Tefillin, by the way, another good thing about Tefillin, you could say, logical question is first, when you do Tefillin, you put one on the arm first, which directed towards your heart, and the second one you put over here, and it's supposed to end, the box is supposed to end at your hairline. A lot of people put it on their forehead, it's wrong. Okay, some people, there's a big issue about it. Some people say that do it on their, put it on their forehead, it doesn't even count like they did Tefillin, some people say. Some rabbis say. So it's not like it's a big deal. Point is that it's supposed to end over here at your hairline. If you don't have hair anymore, then you have to remember where it was. But there's a reasons why they're here and here. But the common question is, why do we put the one on the arm before we put the one on the head? Because logically, your head is more important than your arm. If you cut off somebody's arm, chas v'chalila, they're still going to live. Cut off somebody's head, not so much. So why wouldn't you put the head first? Head's more important, right? If you have to give if you're serving a meal, who are you going to give it to, the king first, or are you going to give it to one of his soldiers? Give it to the king first. So it doesn't make any sense, right? But here's the thing. This little thing that is the core of our connection with Hashem, even the way we put it on is a hint about our relationship with Hashem. Hashem says, put it on your arm first, and then on your head, because first you do what I say, and then you think about the reasons of why you're doing it. Because if you think about all the reasons of why you're doing it, you may never get to actually do it because you may have too many questions and not enough answers. And in reality, the reason why we need to do it is because He said so. Even though there's different ta'amim, there's different reasons, benefits that we get from it. Like, for example, Brit Milah, there are different physical benefits of getting a Brit Milah versus none that have been scientifically proven. That there's someone that has a Brit Milah is much healthier than someone that doesn't, and is less likely to get disease. Is someone that's in general going to have a better life health-wise. And there's huge benefits to kosher food, and there's huge benefits to even being religious in general versus non-religious, as far as psychologically. So there's countless benefits to doing all of these things that we can find out about. But if Hashem made it a law where only do things that make sense to you, only do things if you know the benefit, then Judaism would cease to exist. Because most people will not look into what's the benefits of it, and instead will just use, since I don't know, I don't need to do. So it's important for us to do what he says, and while we're doing it, learn while we're doing it. And little by little get connected to him. So the beginning of all of it is learn Torah. Learn Torah. A little bit every day. Start keeping the mitzvot a little more. Those books, took some pictures of them. So, I mean, you could, for this week, you're not going to get it. You could take the Shabbat one and go over, or whichever one you want. For the weekend, if you want, you can borrow it. It's not a big deal.
No.
Each one of you guys could have one if you want.
Books won't survive by my house.
They don't survive, so not so much. So, all right, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bezat Hashem, we'll have another shul next week. We'll get some more people, and Tizkuru mitzvot.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.